Why Freud Was Wrong. Sin, Science and Psychoanalysis by Richard Webster. Summary. Unearned Wisdom. Richard Webster's book, Why Freud Was Wrong. Sin, Science and Psychoanalysis takes a critical look at Sigmund Freud, the famous founder of psychoanalysis, digging into his life, theories, and the influences behind them. Webster explores Freud's upbringing and the cultural atmosphere of 19th century Vienna to see how these factors might have shaped Freud's groundbreaking ideas. First off, Webster dives into Freud's early life and family. Being the eldest child in his family, Freud had a particularly complex and influential relationship with his parents. His mother, Amalia, was much younger than his father and had a close, perhaps overly attentive, relationship with Freud. This dynamic, Webster suggests, could have been a basis for Freud's Oedipus complex theory, where he proposed that children have subconscious desires for their opposite sex parent. On the other hand, Freud's father, Jacob, was a more distant figure, older and seemingly less influential in young Freud's life. This relationship might have shaped Freud's thoughts about the role of fathers in children's psychological development. Adding another layer to the family dynamics, Freud's numerous siblings, some from his father's previous marriage, created a complex family structure. This, according to Webster, may have influenced Freud's ideas about sibling rivalry and how family interactions play out. This background in a blended family likely gave Freud unique insights into the intricate nature of family relationships. Furthermore, Freud was known for his extensive practice of self-analysis. He often reflected deeply on his own experiences and emotions, using these personal insights as a foundation for developing broader psychoanalytic concepts. Webster points out that this method might have led Freud to generalize his own feelings and experiences, applying them to psychoanalytic theories more universally than might be appropriate. Beyond his immediate family environment, the broader cultural context of Freud's upbringing also played a role. Growing up in a Jewish family in predominantly Catholic Vienna of the 19th century, Freud was immersed in a world with its own unique set of values and family structures. This cultural background, Webster argues, could have significantly influenced Freud's perceptions and theories about parental authority, familial duties, and the dynamics of family roles. Freud's Vienna was an exciting mix of intellectual discussions, artistic endeavors, and scientific exploration. The city was teeming with artists, writers, and thinkers, all engaging in lively debates about human nature, philosophy, and the arts. This vibrant cultural scene likely fed into Freud's own thinking, possibly even influencing his narrative style and his approach to psychoanalysis, which often resembled storytelling. Yet this intellectually stimulating environment coexisted with a society that was quite rigid in its social norms, especially regarding sexuality. Public morality often masked a very different private behavior, creating a culture where much was left unsaid or hidden, a world of repression and secrecy. Freud's focus on sexual motivations and the unconscious could very well be a reaction to this atmosphere, his theories mirroring the repressed sexual tensions simmering beneath the surface of Viennese society. The era was also marked by rapid advancements in science and medicine, with Vienna being a hub for medical research. Freud, with his medical background, was undoubtedly influenced by these scientific developments. However, the limitations of contemporary science in fully explaining complex psychological phenomena might have nudged him towards a more interpretive, less strictly empirical approach. Moreover, Vienna's class system was quite rigid, with clear lines dividing the aristocracy, the bourgeoisie, and the working class. Freud, coming from a middle-class Jewish background, found himself in a somewhat ambiguous position within this social hierarchy. This unique perspective might have shaped his views on social dynamics, neuroses, and how societal pressures and class anxieties can influence mental health. Lastly, Freud's Jewish identity in a predominantly Christian society was significant. Being an outsider in this context, especially against a backdrop of latent anti-Semitic attitudes, could have influenced his understanding of the psychological mechanisms of projection and internal conflict. Webster takes a close look at how Freud's education and the academic theories of his era played a crucial role in shaping his ideas, suggesting that these factors were key in his shift from a strictly scientific to a more interpretative approach. Freud's exposure to Charles Darwin's work had a lasting impact. Darwin's theories of evolution and natural selection, and his thoughts on the biological basis of behavior, deeply influenced Freud. This likely played a part in Freud's effort to understand human psychology in terms of evolutionary development, particularly evident in his theories about innate drives and instincts. During Freud's time, neuroscience was just taking its first steps. Freud's own medical training covered areas like neuroanatomy and neuropathology, which were just starting to delve into how the brain and nervous system function. His early research focused on the neurology of certain physical and mental conditions. However, given the limited understanding of brain function at the time, Freud might have been compelled to look beyond pure neurology and venture into the realm of the unconscious and psychoanalysis. His medical background, especially his training in the emerging field of psychiatry, gave him valuable insights into mental disorders and the workings of the human mind. Freud's clinical experiences, notably his work with hysteria and other psychopathologies, laid the groundwork for his psychoanalytic theories. Apart from scientific inputs, Freud was also steeped in the philosophical ideas of his time, particularly those about the mind, consciousness, and self. The philosophical debates of the era, grappling with questions of human nature and the unconscious, likely nudged Freud towards a more interpretive and less rigidly empirical approach. Webster suggests that a key reason for Freud's move away from a pure scientific approach was the limitations of contemporary science in explaining complex human behaviors and emotions. The fledgling state of neuroscience and psychology at the time couldn't fully unravel the intricacies of human psychology, prompting Freud to seek alternative methods like dream interpretation and free association. Freud's education wasn't confined to just medicine and biology. He also had a deep interest in literature, art, and culture. This interdisciplinary approach enriched his theoretical framework, enabling him to blend insights from different fields into his understanding of the human psyche. Moreover, Webster delves into how Freud's personal struggles, such as his own neuroses, health issues, and the use of substances like cocaine, might have influenced the development of psychoanalysis. He suggests that Freud's personal quest to understand and treat his own issues significantly contributed to the formulation of his theories. This intertwining of personal experience with professional inquiry offers a unique lens through which to view Freud's work, hinting at the deeply personal roots of his psychoanalytic theories. Freud battled with neurotic symptoms throughout his life, including anxiety, phobias, and obsessive thoughts. These personal challenges weren't just personal issues. They significantly shaped his professional theories. For example, his idea of defense mechanisms might have come from his ways of coping with his own anxieties and fears. This introspection and self-analysis played a big role in how he developed his concepts in psychoanalysis. The interplay between Freud's personal experiences and his professional work was significant. He often used his own life as a basis for developing broader psychological theories, indicating a strong connection between his personal and professional worlds. This method, while innovative, may have also introduced a degree of subjectivity into his theories. Freud's journey to understand his own psychological issues might have driven him to seek broader insights into human behavior. Webster posits that Freud's personal experiences were central to the formation of his theories, leading him to apply his personal insights more universally than might have been appropriate. An important point Webster highlights is the significant influence of Freud's mentors and colleagues on the development of his psychoanalytic theories, particularly in shifting his focus from a purely physiological to a more psychological understanding of mental illness. Jean-Martin Charcot, a French neurologist, played a pivotal role in Freud's professional development. Working at the Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris, Charcot's groundbreaking studies on hysteria and his use of hypnosis deeply impacted Freud. Charcot viewed hysteria as a psychological issue rather than just a physical one, introducing Freud to the idea that the mind could significantly affect the body. This exposure was crucial in shaping Freud's later work, steering him away from a strictly medical model of mental illness to one that incorporated psychological elements. Another key influence was Joseph Breuer, a Viennese physician. Freud's collaboration with Breuer, especially on the case of Anna O. Bertha Pappenheim, was highly influential. Breuer's talking cure for treating hysteria inspired Freud's development of techniques like free association and played a role in the conceptualization of catharsis, a fundamental concept in psychoanalytic therapy. Freud's relationships with his mentors and colleagues weren't always smooth. For example, his views on the sexual origins of neurosis led to disagreements with Breuer. These intellectual conflicts, while challenging, also drove Freud to further develop and refine his theories. Webster suggests that these disagreements helped Freud clarify and solidify his ideas. Freud's interaction with other early psychoanalysts, such as Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, and Wilhelm Reich, was also crucial in the evolution of his theories. While initial collaborations helped expand psychoanalytic thought, later disagreements, especially with Jung and Adler, caused significant rifts in the psychoanalytic movement. These splits not only influenced Freud's thinking but also led to the emergence of alternative schools of psychoanalytic thought. Additionally, the academic and intellectual environment in which Freud worked provided a fertile ground for exchanging ideas. His interactions with scholars in and out of psychology influenced his perspectives on a range of topics, from neurology to philosophy. This rich backdrop of ideas and debates played a significant role in shaping Freud's theories and his approach to psychoanalysis. Webster emphasizes the significant role of Freud's Jewish background in a predominantly Catholic Vienna and how this aspect of his identity influenced his work and theories. Freud's status as a Jew in largely Catholic Vienna made him an outsider, a position that likely shaped his worldview and professional perspective. Facing both implicit and explicit anti-Semitic attitudes, Freud often found himself on the fringes of the central cultural and religious narratives of his society. This experience of being a minority figure may have fostered his sense of being an outsider, potentially fueling his drive to challenge mainstream ideas and established norms. This outsider perspective might have also influenced the themes Freud explored in psychoanalysis. The concepts of the unconscious, repression, and the dynamics of social and familial exclusion in his work could be reflections of his own experiences of marginalization. Navigating a society where he was part of a religious minority likely informed his understanding of internal psychological conflict and the mechanisms of repression. In a society where Jews faced discrimination and barriers to professional advancement, Freud's ambition to excel and gain recognition in the academic and medical fields might have been partly driven by a desire to overcome these obstacles. His pioneering work in psychoanalysis, thus, can be seen as an effort to establish a distinct and influential intellectual legacy, transcending the limitations imposed by his religious and cultural identity. The intellectual and cultural traditions of Judaism, with their emphasis on critical thinking, textual analysis, and engagement with philosophical and existential questions, also likely played a role in shaping Freud's intellectual development. His approach to psychoanalysis, involving deep exploration into the human psyche and complex narratives of the self, mirrors this depth of inquiry. Furthermore, the presence of anti-Semitism in Viennese society might have directly impacted Freud's thoughts on group psychology and the psychology of prejudice. His later work exploring the nature of civilization, social norms, and the roots of conflict and aggression may have been partly influenced by his responses to anti-Semitic attitudes and behaviors. Freud's complex relationship with his Jewish identity, embracing it in some aspects while being ambivalent in others, mirrors the tensions and contradictions often found in his theoretical work. This complexity adds another layer to his exploration of identity and self in psychoanalysis. Scientific validity of Freud's theories. The book scrutinizes the scientific underpinnings of Freud's work. Webster argues that Freud's theories, particularly those about the Oedipus complex and infantile sexuality, lack empirical support and are based more on Freud's interpretations rather than objective data. Webster takes a critical look at the scientific foundations of Freud's work, particularly focusing on the lack of empirical support for many of his theories. Webster points out that Freud's ideas, especially those about the Oedipus complex and infantile sexuality, often relied more on his own interpretations and less on concrete, objective data. Webster dives into the Oedipus complex, one of Freud's most famous theories, which suggests that children have an unconscious desire for their opposite sex parent and a rivalry with their same-sex parent. He notes that this theory, while intriguing and influential, lacks solid empirical backing. Freud's conclusions in this area were largely drawn from his analyses of patients and his own introspections, rather than from wide-scale systematic studies. Similarly, when it comes to infantile sexuality, Freud proposed that children experience sexual feelings from a very young age, a concept that was groundbreaking and controversial. However, Webster argues that this theory, too, suffers from a lack of empirical evidence. Much of Freud's work in this area was based on his interpretations of patient stories and behaviors, rather than on quantifiable data or controlled experiments. Webster also discusses the broader methodological issues in Freud's work. He points out that Freud often used case studies, which are detailed examinations of individual patients, as the basis for his theories. While these case studies provide rich, qualitative data, they don't necessarily offer the kind of replicable, generalizable findings that are the hallmark of empirical science. This reliance on case studies and personal interpretation over more rigorous scientific methods has led many in the scientific community to view Freud's work with skepticism. Additionally, Freud's theories are often criticized for their lack of falsifiability. A theory is considered scientifically valid if it can be proven false through experiments or observations. Many of Freud's concepts, such as the unconscious mind's influence on behavior, are difficult, if not impossible, to test in this way, making them more speculative than scientifically verifiable. Webster's examination of Freud's work highlights a key criticism: the lack of empirical support and reliance on subjective interpretation. While Freud's theories have been immensely influential and have shaped the field of psychology, their scientific validity remains a topic of debate due to these methodological shortcomings. Webster's critique suggests that while Freud was a pioneer in exploring the human psyche, his methods and conclusions were not always aligned with the rigorous standards of empirical science.